It's starting now. The live is starting.
We'll start until we actually have people.
Yeah, there's nobody there, so.
Alright. We'll give it like 10 minutes, maybe 15, if nobody shows up, that's fine.
Yeah, this is right. So the Weissel event in Abidjan was quite successful.
Good.
A lot of people won. My son's team won the robotics.
That's awesome.
We actually took first and third place, so
That's brilliant.
yeah, they did quite well. There was, I think, if I recall, there was we placed in the map counts. I think the tennis, was it tennis or table tennis? They won. I'd have to go back and look at
Oh,
my
that's
notes.
great.
It just seemed like there were a lot of wins, and I was like, wow, okay, cool.
Good for them. It's a good experience. My daughter's been fortunate enough to go. My eldest went on the theater trip, the ISTA trip to London, which is a fabulous program. And then Marie, my 8th grader, did the TIS Global Issues thing in Zambia. In February.
Still a little,
And yeah, these are experiences that I never had. These international trips are very important.
oh, totally. I mean, between the experience of the subject matter of what you're doing on the event, but also travel.
Yeah.
For people in this community, it's important to have a little more international exposure. That's the strength of where they're coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one of the parent groups that deals with sustainability and environmental awareness. So we're like adamant about we shouldn't be flying kids for Waxel and other things like that. And that's not something I agree with, something that Nika does not agree with. It's a trade-off.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning to all of you who are joining us. It's an intimate crowd this morning, but thank you for joining us. For those of you watching, viewing, if you have any questions, please go ahead and you should be able to type those into the chat. We'll answer those at any time. My name is Tim Klitz. I'm the chairperson of the Board of Trustees for ISD. I'm joined by Chris York, our vice chair of the board, as well as the vice chair of our Governance and Development Committee. The purpose of this session is just to provide some information about what it is to be a trustee, some of the requirements, some of the asks, some of the tools that you're going to need, some of the expectations, as well as some things that we may expect to be working on next year. So first we'll start with what is the board and why does it exist. The board is established in our Articles of Association. Back when the school was founded, back in the 80s, the Articles of Association established the framework on which our school resides, and in that it calls for the establishment of a board of trustees. Our bylaws then further expand upon the powers and the duties of the board of trustees. It is 9 volunteers for the trustees. It is a combination of elected and appointed. We are what we call a hybrid model. Which is the most common type of international school board that we have currently. A couple years ago, we were completely elected. For a majority of our history, we've been elected, but we've changed that, so now that we are appointed and elected. The purpose of having appointments is that you can actually search out potential trustees with specific skill sets that may be lacking on the board. Someone who has maybe a law background or finance background or something like that, and allows for a more expansive knowledge base amongst the trustees, and thus better ability to have productive discussions and make those important strategic decisions. In addition to the trustees, the board actually also consists of the director, the deputy director, both principals, a U.S. ambassador's rep, and a faculty rep. Back in the 80s, there's an agreement, agreed between the government of Senegal and the government of the United States that allowed for the establishment of this school. The agreement allows for an English language education program for international students, that is ISD. It also establishes the school's nonprofit character and gives the U.S. Embassy sort of responsibility for the school to a certain extent. Following on from that, there's a memo of understanding between the U.S. Embassy here and the school that delineates the responsibilities between the two, clarifies the relationship. It ensures acceptance of U.S. Embassy students, children, and I say it also provides services the school can use from the embassy. This would be mail services, security, customs and shipping is a very big thing, since each year we do have to bring in everything. We can do that with the assistance of the U.S. Embassy. Transitioning a little bit, when it comes to what is or why does it exist? It exists because there are sort of 3 different responsibilities, 3 ways of thinking that the trustees should engage in that lead to a proper governance of the school. And again, the trustees govern the school, we don't manage the school. There is a distinction there. We set the framework, we set the direction, we set the strategic planning, and then through the director and her staff, they implement those things. They manage it, we govern it. But the 3 sort of modes of governance, the 3 ways of thinking for us trustees, the first one is fiduciary, which I think everyone pretty much understands. That's managing the tangible assets of the school. The finances, the physical school, the buildings, all of that. There's the strategic part of it, which is a very important part of being a trustee, of setting that long-term, sustainable vision. And that is a partnership with the leadership to develop that. And then the sort of pretty much the most challenging to address, to deal with for the trustees is what's called the generative form of government. And this is sort of that out-of-the-box thinking. It's not addressing specific problems, it's analyzing the situation and trying to understand why it is what it is. We've employed that this year with the creation of an ad hoc committee, the Opportunities and Challenges Committee, which is working on analyzing about 6 or 7 different topics and issues that we've identified as having substantial potential impact on the school, short-term, mid-term, long-term. This lays the foundation for next year when the board will start working on the next strategic plan for the school. The board works collaboratively. We are one group. We have one voice once we make a decision. We try and work by consensus, and generally that works. When there isn't consensus, it's a majority vote. That's a pretty simple thing. And having 9 trustees, all with and those are the only ones who have a vote, you'll never get a tie. Decisions are made in the board meetings, and they're based on the work that our committees do. We'll talk about committees in a little bit. The committees are really doing the sort of the grunt work and preparing everything, so bringing proposals, bringing ideas, bringing concepts to the full board that we discuss and occasionally vote on, depending on what it is. Occasionally there's communication outside of board meetings. That's usually just sort of electronic, quick, can't wait for the next meeting to happen. We need just a quick sense of where everybody stands on a particular issues or circumstance or something like that. It's not side discussions where it's just a couple of trustees. It involves the whole group. But with this, the important thing to take away from this is that once a decision is made, that is a board decision. We work as one group, one voice. The chair is usually the voice, but there are other aspects of that as well. Other trustees can do that. And we support, regardless of what our personal feelings are, we support the decisions of the board, because that's how we work and make progress. Moving on. I mentioned committees. We have right now 4 standing committees and an ad hoc committee. We have finance, governance and development, buildings and grounds, and policy are 4 standings. On occasion, we can have what's called an officers committee. There are 4 officers out of the 9 trustees: chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Sometimes that's formalized into an officers committee, sometimes it's not. There are certain things that that type of committee can address. For example, we usually have, when it comes to substantial long-term financial implications for the school, that usually requires sort of 2 presentations at a board meeting. If time doesn't allow for that, because that does stretch over 2 months and things need to be done more immediately, the officers can discuss and waive that second reading and just vote after one time. Other than that, it's not formalized this year, but there are discussions that go along with it. Like I said, we also have ad hoc committee meetings. Last year we had a director search committee, strategic planning we had last year. We'll have again next year, either an ad hoc committee or a task force. Depends on what the board decides how to frame it. This year, like I said, we had opportunities and challenges. And that was developed specifically to address our 3rd goal of laying trying to find those elements, those aspects of operating as an international school that will impact our strategic planning. Running through the standing months, finance, as you can imagine, it leads the board's oversight for the school's short and long-term financial health. The director and her staff will bring proposed budget to the finance committee. Finance committee will review it, ask questions, ask for clarifications, and then they bring them to the board. That's in addition to the budget, it's also our reserves, it's also the annual financial audits that we do. Anything money related basically is finance committee. Governance and development. Governance is basically, and development is of the trustees of the board. The whole board, the whole trustees govern the school, but the governance and development committee is making sure that the board trustees have the tools that they need, the skills that they need to function properly. It oversees the hopefully smooth functioning, growth and development of the board of trustees, much like this information session that is run basically through the governance committee. The governance and development committee is also responsible for making sure that there's continual training and evaluation of the board throughout the year. Buildings and grounds is responsible for the physical grounds of the campus. They work closely with the finance committee, as you can imagine, because finances impact what we can do and what we can't do. Policy committee deals with board policy. The sort of hierarchical structure of the rules of the school is you have the articles of association, the bylaws, and from that comes the policy manual. We're in the process of updating it, streamlining it, making it more in line with how a policy manual should be. And the policy committee is in charge of managing that. And then from that policy manual comes all the different handbooks that we as parents have been exposed to, the parent-student handbooks, the college counseling, the child protection, all of those. And all of those need to be in alignment. And the policy committee is responsible for ensuring that alignment. The board of trustees has one employee. We talked about this a lot last year, obviously, as we were transitioning leadership. That one employee is the director. We don't manage or supervise anybody else other than the director. And through the director, she manages the rest of the campus and the personnel. And so there's obviously a close relationship between the board, between the trustees, and the director. Board chair has regular meetings with the director, talk about things, plan upcoming board meetings, just give a status of where things are, advise, consent, all of that. The director also attends all of our committee meetings, as well as obviously the board meetings, and is an active participant in all of those. Even though the director and the rest of the administrative staff do not have a vote, they have a voice. That voice, that expertise is crucial to making sure that the trustees have the best information possible on how to govern the school. The board has been made up of active, eligible members of the association. What that means is you're a parent and you've paid your bills, and so that makes you eligible. Teachers are part of the association, but they're not allowed to serve on the board. There's a bylaw restriction on employees or the spouses of employees serving on the board. So the board, the trustees have come from the association, from the parent group. Even though we're appointed right now, we still come from, all of us are still active parents. Though we do not represent any one segment of the association, this is a very important thing. You don't come in saying, well, I'm representing this embassy or this group of folks. You represent the entire association, and the purpose here is for you to be, as our previous chair last year said, the guardian of the mission. Now we do have, even though we're not representing one particular segment of our association, we do have varied backgrounds and experiences, and that variety helps make for these robust discussions that we have that lead us to the best decisions possible when we have to do that. Relationship with the association. Okay, this is obviously one of the things that we're doing right now. Like I said, we are a representative of the association. We are guardians of the mission. We have an open, structured communication process. Each month for our board meetings, there is a public comment section. Everyone is welcome to attend. We also have the association general meeting, which this year is going to be May 14th. At that meeting, we'll go over the finances for this year, we'll go over our board goals, and we will announce the winners of the election, which candidate applications start today. trustee's responsibility in terms of dealing with or interacting with the association is to realize and to act in a couple different ways. One, most of the issues that actually come to the board from the association are actually operational in nature. And so there is sort of a redirect to the director and her staff. We don't set, the rules on when the pool is open. That's managing, that's not governing. And so a lot of the questions that we get are actually operational in nature, and so we direct the asking member to the operational side. Having said that, though, everyone is most welcome to ask trustees questions, provide comments. If you want something formal, we do ask that you just write to us. We have something in writing. Stuff just in the ether, in the little side chats, whatever, don't affect change. They don't provide all the information, and so if you want something formal, we just ask that you write it. Another responsibility the trustees have is when they're asked a question, again, since most of the questions are operational, having a sense, you don't have to be exact, but having a sense of where to direct that person to best answer that question. If it's something about DP scores, DP coordinator may be the best thing. If it's something about what are they teaching in PE, then the chair of the PE section or the athletics and activities department may be the best place for that. Trustees are present and available at the annual general meeting each year. We're also expected to participate. By participate, you don't have to actively participate, but there needs to be a presence at various activities throughout the school year. If there's, obviously graduation will be at. Last night was the community iftar that I was able to attend. And attend these as a board member in addition to just being a parent. So that there is a board presence and that shows our support for what's going on in our community. All right. Most important thing for those of you who are interested in potentially becoming a trustee, what is the time commitment? What do you need to do? These are estimates. They're not exact. Sometimes there's more time that's needed than others, but in general, we have a board monthly meeting, and that's 3 to 4 hours. I'm being generous with that. That usually, like when we start the year, it's usually a couple of hours, and if it gets longer, the more they can get into the school year. Occasionally, we have an executive session after those board meetings. That is something where it's just the trustees, the U.S. ambassador's rep, and the director. Sometimes it's without director, depending on what the topic is. Those are usually relatively brief. There's monthly committee meetings. Each trustee is required to serve on at least one of those committees that I mentioned. You can serve on more. It's entirely up to you what your schedule allows. Preparation and other work. There's reading before committee meetings and board meetings that need to happen. We have a board retreat this coming school year. It's going to be that first weekend in September. We have an outside consultant coming in. We're Dick Weiler, who facilitated our board retreat this past year. He's going to be coming back. So that you do need to attend that. That is a non-negotiable. If you choose to be an officer or committee chair, there is some more work because you are responsible for officer duties, or if you're committee chair, for making sure that the agenda is correct, the minutes are correct, and leading the discussion. So there's a little bit more preparation work. In addition, for this year, those who are elected to serve as trustees for next year, right now, we're looking at 3 open positions. Those 3 new trustees, we are asking that you attend our May 20th board meeting. This is sort of standard tradition of after the trustees are elected in the annual, in the association general meeting, they attend the very next board meeting. That is just so they get a sense of what a full meeting is like and sort of a first introduction. And this year we're going to try something a little bit different as well. We're scheduled to have a board meeting on June 9th. And that meeting is going to be more inclusive and more hands-on for those new trustees. It's going to act as our orientation, our onboarding, as well as a handover for the various committees and stuff like that. And so we do ask that the trustees, the newly elected trustees, are available. May 20th is a Wednesday, June 9th is a Tuesday. Our meetings go from 5:45 till about 9 o'clock. The term of service is 2 years. So if you're elected, you're expected to serve those 2 years. We understand things come up. This is a very, at times, volatile existence in the international world. So things come up. And we do have mechanisms in place if you're not able to complete your term. However, we do ask that when you enter the term that you do go in with the expectation and the hope that you will complete the entire term. Once your term is over, you're welcome to be reappointed or run for election again. There's no limit on how many consecutive terms one can serve. And then the commitment to service, so that's the time commitment, the logistics. The commitment is abiding by our governance agreements. We're in the process of developing a board handbook that's going to lay out those aspects plus how we actually do our work. But we do have several different agreements. We have a governance agreement, a code of conduct, a conflict of interest, and then basically an acceptance letter that you must abide by. Best practices are something that we attempt to employ in all of our meetings in terms of just how we interact, how we ask questions, how we learn new things, and so everyone's expected to put forth effort to abide by those. And then I think very important in terms of mindset is try not to come in with an agenda. Don't come in with, I want to do this thing, I want to make this change. It usually doesn't work out that well. A better approach, a more effective approach, is to come in with curiosity and questions. So if you have a question about why is this thing this way, ask those questions. Questions are rarely a bad thing. And that's how we get to that generative form of governance, of just analyzing what is this thing, why is it the way that it is, and that can help inform the strategic and the fiduciary governance modes as well. What can you expect to do next year? There are the standard annual things. There's the budget, there's the director's evaluation, there's, the elections, obviously. Each committee will have a, we call it terms of reference, basically a to-do list. And so we'll be working on that. That varies from year to year. Some of them are pretty standard. You can imagine the finance committee is, by this date, you need to do the first budget, and then you need to do the audit. And that's pretty much standard stuff. It's the extra stuff that makes it exciting. Enrollment trends and long-term financial implications of that. Our enrollment has been declining, and so that will be a topic for next year. I imagine that will factor in a bit to the work for the next thing, which is the long-term strategic plan. Typically, schools have strategic plans that last 3 to 5 years. We are currently in the middle of what's called a bridge strategic plan. We had a gap of a couple of years where we did not have an active strategic plan. When Dr. Nika came in last year, we developed a bridge strategic plan to address some immediate operational focused issues. And she's in the process, and her team are in the process of implementing that, and that goes through the end of next year. So the board next year is going to be starting on the strategic plan. It's not going to be focused on the operational. It's going to be, where is the school in 5, 10, 15 years? What are these other things? And that we have to concern ourselves with in the changing world. Where does AI figure into it? What's the IV system? How is, with the evolution that that's doing, how does that impact? Things like that. And they'll be based off of partially the work that our Opportunities and Challenges Committee is doing this year. Updated campus master plan, we're in the process of doing that. And so there'll be, it lives with the Buildings and Grounds Committee, but anything that they recommend comes to the full board for a decision. That would be something that the board would have to deal with and address next year. All right. Election timeframe for this year. Obviously today, the 13th, we're having this session. This is also when the applications open for candidates. An email will be going out later today with the link. We have a Google form that asks you for all the different things. There are basic requirements: a photo, a CV, nationality status / copy of your passport. The reason for that is because our bylaws, our association, Articles of Association bylaws, require that a majority of the trustees are elected, so at least 5 have to be elected, and a majority of them have to have American citizenship. They don't have to be associated with the U.S. Embassy, necessarily, but they have to have American citizenship. I will be departing at the end of this year. I'm an American citizen, and so there's one seat that needs to be filled by an American citizen. And so by providing your passport, it allows us to make sure that we're abiding by and fulfilling the requirements that our bylaws set out. In addition to that, you need a letter of intent. Basically, your declaration that you are willing to stand for the election. For that, it can be as long as you want. However, you may want to have a shorter portion, a 1-paragraph portion, that sort of summarizes it, or you can just make it 1 paragraph altogether, because that will be shared with the community. March 27th is when the window closes for candidate applications. That list will be vetted to make sure everybody qualifies, because you have to be an active, eligible member of the association. We'll share it with the Board of Trustees so that they are aware of it. And then on April 9th, the association will be notified of who the candidates are. That will come out via email. There'll also be postings near the entrance of the school. That's where your picture will be. That's where your letter of intent, so that short paragraph, that's where that really comes in the gate. All this information as well will be shared when the ballot actually goes out on the 23rd of April. Voting this year is 3 weeks long. It's all done online. All the information that's been sent so far and that will continue to be sent. There's frequently asked questions on the links, so if you have any questions, you can always look for that. But it's online voting. You use Election Buddy. It's a secure, not anonymous, but we don't know who's voting for whom. We just know that the votes are coming in. So you don't have to worry about that. Voting will end on May 14th at 3 o'clock. May 14th is also when we have the association general meeting, and at which time we will reveal those who've been elected. Again, 3 open spots this year. One of them needs to have American citizenship, American passport. Any questions with any of this stuff, you can ask any of the trustees. You can send an email to boardbox at faculty.ist.sn. I'm not going to go over this stuff too much. This presentation will be linked into the candidate form if you're interested in being a candidate for you to reference. These are just some testimonials from trustees of why they did it, what's the benefit. So generally it's, like this says, my daughter attended ISD. I saw what a key role the school plays in the sense of community and family well-being for expats in Dakar. They wanted to give back. Trustee says, I would recommend to anyone with a willingness to learn, listen, share, and ultimately support and grow with our school. Serving on the board has been a rewarding experience, allows me to support teachers, students, and families. Collaborating with others who are passionate about education makes it meaningful. I chose to become a trustee to give back to the amazing school and community of ISD. This is not uncommon. So there is purpose. It's a volunteer position. You're not going to get paid for this, but it is a very rewarding position. You do get to see direct impact through your governance on the students and preparing them for the world in which we live. That is the end of our presentation. I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you do, you can feel free to put those into the chat. Awesome.
No questions yet, but 18
Yeah.
good.
There's a rule that we were told about in our board retreat of when you get to this point and you ask what questions do you have, you count to 7. Some people count faster than others. I've done it in our meetings, and it actually works. So we will wait. Let any questions you guys have about serving on the board, being a trustee, the process, please feel free to ask. Well, if you don't have any questions right now, that is fine. boardbox@faculty.isd.sn. This is in all of our communications. This is our general board box. If you have any questions, please email them. I check it regularly, and I'll respond as best I can. Obviously, if you see us on campus, you're welcome to ask us. I'm on campus often, so if you see me, you're most welcome to come up and ask me any questions. And for that, I want to say thank you very much for attending. We will have another session on Monday evening at 6 o'clock. If you know of other folks who may be interested, or if you want to come back for a repeat performance, by all means. Other than that, have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.